Welcome to AI Dispatch, your channel for the latest AI videos on YouTube. If you don't want to miss these updates, please like, subscribe, and share. Today's video comes from Relentless. Joining us is Ali Ansari, the founder of Micro One. His thesis centers on leadership as a deliberate destabilization mechanism rather than a risk mitigation function. He contends that standardized compensation structures actively suppress outlier performance in exponential markets. His operational principles range from equity grants awarded on the spot for strategic deals to dismissing key performance indicators in favor of unfiltered professional judgment. What follows is a technical dissection of how he structures organizations for volatility rather than stability. Ali Ansari, the founder of Micro One, presents a leadership framework that inverts executive responsibility. The founder's exclusive function is to inject maximum risk into the organization, as no other participant will perform this role. His reasoning dismantles conventional executive theory, which positions leadership as the primary risk mitigation layer. Ansari observes that employees operate under employment preservation incentives, meaning every decision naturally gravitates towards safety and incremental action. Without a counterbalancing force, actively advocating for moves with catastrophic downside potential, organizational momentum defaults to stagnation. He notes that in startup economics, the worst outcome for nearly any decision is bankruptcy, which already represents the default state. Therefore, avoiding bankruptcy as a decision criterion is logically incoherent. This establishes a model where the leader must function as the source of instability rather than the guarantor of safety. This risk injection philosophy directly shapes his compensation architecture, which systematically violates human resources orthodoxy. Standard corporate practice relies on compensation bands, equity tiers, and predictable incentive structures. Ansari eliminates this entirely. He describes awarding recruiters extraordinary, life-altering bonuses for achieving targets deemed impossible, such as hiring 1,000 people within a 2-week window. His approach to deal closures operates similarly. He recounts informing a critical team member that successfully closing a company-defining deal would result in an immediate doubling of their equity allocation. This decision terrifies his CFO and general counsel because it violates every governance protocol, but his logic is precise. Operating in a market experiencing 30x annual growth makes standardized incentive structures a structural liability. Capturing outlier outcomes requires outlier compensation mechanisms. He extends this rejection of standard metrics through what he terms the revenue override. In traditional management systems, key performance indicators function as the authoritative measurement framework. Ansari positions strict KPI adherence as a reduction mechanism that compresses sophisticated human intuition into 3 or 4 arbitrary numerical outputs. He explicitly instructs his team that achieving ambitious quarterly revenue targets nullifies individual KPI requirements. He characterizes human intuition as a high-dimensional neural network processing millions of variables, whereas KPI dashboards process only a handful. Forcing adherence to KPIs effectively lobotomizes professional judgment. Shifting to economic and labor market inversions, his analysis challenges prevailing assumptions about AI's impact on employment. The dominant economic narrative positions AI as a job displacement technology that completes tasks previously requiring human labor. Ansari argues this perspective suffers from insufficient imagination regarding what he calls the function space of the economy. He asserts there is no terminal point in AI automation. His thesis: automating a function does not complete work. It expands the economy's function space to generate entirely new tasks that previously did not exist. He uses his recruiting team as empirical evidence. Since their AI agent now executes all interviewing and candidate vetting, his human recruiters no longer perform traditional recruiting functions. Instead, they have transformed into marketers designing creative sourcing campaigns. The job title remains unchanged, but the functional content has completely mutated. He predicts this pattern will replicate across the entire economy. As AI commoditizes intelligence, human labor will migrate into new, currently unimaginable function spaces requiring novel forms of structured judgment. This implies that demand for human labor does not decrease, it shifts into higher value abstraction layers. This analysis produces his most counterintuitive economic forecast, the emergence of a $1 trillion human data market. The standard assumption holds that as AI models improve and synthetic data generation becomes more sophisticated, the requirement for human-generated data will decline. Ansari argues the precise opposite. he contends that synthetic data functions as a multiplier. If synthetic data enables taking 1 unit of human judgment and replicating it 1 million times, that single unit of human judgment becomes infinitely more valuable, not less. He forecasts a future where a substantial percentage of global labour markets, potentially $1 trillion annually, consists purely of individuals compensated for generating structured data to train models. This introduces an ontological disruption in how employment and value are defined. Traditional hiring frameworks evaluate candidates based on skills, a lawyer for legal expertise, a doctor for surgical precision. Micro One is constructing what they call the M1 happiness model. They are training an AI system to predict whether a candidate will experience satisfaction performing a specific job, and they use this prediction to adjust match scores. This appears to be a human resources benefit, but the engineering logic is purely operational. Ansari treats happiness not as an emotional state, but as a predictive variable for data quality. He compares it to Uber routing drivers based on their preference for routes near water. If a human is unhappy, the data they generate for model training degrades in quality. Therefore, he is operationalizing emotion. A lawyer may possess perfect qualifications for a task, but if the model predicts they will experience boredom or dissatisfaction, they are rejected. This redefines employment from a transaction of skills to a transaction of alignment. Examining the engineering principles that enable these operational models reveals further departures from industry consensus. The AI industry discusses agents extensively, but Ansari highlights a mathematical reality explaining why most agents today deliver minimal utility. The issue is compound error propagation. He explains that current models achieve approximately 90% accuracy answering individual questions. However, a job is not a question, it is a workflow. If a task requires 20 sequential steps and the model maintains 90% accuracy at each step, the mathematics dictate near certain failure. 0.9 raised to the power of 20 yields, a success rate approaching zero. This is why he believes the industry's focus on question and answer chatbots represents a developmental dead end. The only viable path forward is constructing long horizon reinforcement learning environments where models are trained on the complete task journey, such as the chaotic process of collecting tax documents from a disorganized client rather than solely the final step of form completion. This requirement for real-world unstructured data has compelled him to transform the physical world into a data extraction operation. He observes that while the internet exists for text and images, there is no internet for robotics. Robots cannot learn from YouTube because it lacks egocentric perspective. It does not provide data from the robot's viewpoint. Therefore, he has operationalized the daily lives of 3,000 individuals across 50 countries. These individuals are compensated to wear head-mounted cameras and simply exist cooking, cleaning, moving their hands. He is effectively converting the mundane, private existence of humans into a commodity to construct a brain for robots. The scale at which this operates violates traditional business physics. In corporate environments, hiring is a deliberate, time-intensive process. Ansari shares that a single client required hiring 300 world-class surgeons within a single week. In traditional human resources terms, this is a physical impossibility. You cannot locate, interview, and vet 300 experts in that time frame. He argues this proves the obsolescence of the old recruitment model. It was only achievable because an AI agent conducted the interviews. This signals a transition where human capital can be provisioned with the speed and elasticity of cloud computing infrastructure, spinning up a workforce of doctors as easily as deploying a server farm. Ansari's operational philosophy reveals a unified principle. He treats corporate norms, economic fears, and engineering limits as flexible constraints, while treating speed and risk as the only rigid physics of survival. He is wagering that the future belongs to those who can convert human existence into structured data and manage companies with the volatility profile of a venture capital portfolio. If you're interested in the video featured in this episode, click the link below to watch the original.